Hello mortals, it is I, Death the Narrator, the Grim Reaper who tells stories in my pastime. Today, I have gathered 3 Craigslist horror stories that will send chills down your bone. A normal, well-dressed man comes over to see it after a few phone calls about it. He's in his early 40s and his name is James. He's buying it for his daughter in college. I always have my guard up when dealing with strangers, but so far James is personable and seems legitimate. He test drives it with me in it. He does a thorough inspection. He negotiates the price with me for a while. He asks me to hold the car for 2 days so he can get the money and come pick it up. I agree a 2-day hold where I won't sell it to someone else. 2 days later, James follows up and we meet again midday in a normal neighborhood in an urban city. James and I test drive the car one more time. He gives me a Chase Bank cashier's check, which I said was fine. I tell him he needs to come to the bank with me to cash this check and to get the title notarized over to him. This is when he starts acting nervous. We're pulled over on the side of my street discussing this, James in the driver's seat and me as the passenger. I figured if he was gonna steal my car, he would have 2 days earlier. Now I'm fairly comfortable with him. He asks me to do one more car inspection with him, then we'd go to the bank. I agreed, but I'm very set on doing the transaction at a bank. As we both get out to inspect the car again, he jumps back in and floors it as I try to get back in with him. He pulls away quicker than I can react, the passenger door wide open. I tried to run after him and then realized I'm not as fast as a car. There are bystanders and I hysterically ask someone to call 911. One guy does. I had my phone, but my adrenaline was through the roof and didn't even think of it. As I'm on a stranger's phone with dispatch, an undercover cop car with 2 officers pulls out of an alley 5 feet from me. I wave them down and hysterically explain my story. They tell me to hop in the back of their car, which I do. I implore them to hurry and we can catch this guy, he just drove off. I explain the car and plate and everything. They assure me that they will not go on a high-speed chase with me in the car, but will radio it to all surrounding officers, which they do. The guy gets away and the officers drop me off at the police station to file a report. I file an insurance claim too and am so mad at myself for letting this happen. I suppose it's better than if I was in the car with this guy, but I'm still mad. Of course, James Berner's cell phone doesn't work as soon as he had left. I go through insurance and their protocols to ensure I'm not committing fraud for about 3 months. The week I'm supposed to get paid, I get a call from the police. They found my car. 3 states over. James was working with a partner in crime, don't remember his name, let's call him Duckface. James stole the car and gave it to Duckface to sell, so it wasn't traceable back to James, and Duckface would have plausible deniability if he was ever questioned. Well, Duckface sold my car to an average Joe who actually did have a daughter in college who needed a car. The daughter tried to register her new car at the DMV and it came up as stolen. So the cops arranged for me, the average Joe, and Duckface, whose contact info average Joe had, as he paid him with a check and there was a paper trail, to meet with them at the station for a little chat. Duckface denies any involvement with James, but agrees to give us the money back that average Joe paid him if he can just leave without any problems. We all agree to this. Average Joe and I say his daughter can keep the car and I'll take the money from Duckface. So eventually I got paid for my car. But this experience sucked balls and was very stressful. Since then I have bought and sold cars on Craigslist again. So no lesson was learned, except now I take a photo of the driver's license of all people I interact with at the start. in college, my girlfriend at the time and I needed to find an apartment for only one semester, which was impossible to find affordably in a college town. We ended up looking on Craigslist and living in a 2BR with this guy. Let's call him Dirty Dan. Dirty Dan was in his early 30s. He was pretty much a stereotype nerd, really tall and chubby, a gross beard and really long gross hair, and loved Dungeons and Dragons and video games and stuff like that. But he seemed nice, and he had a fully furnished apartment, and the rent was low. Dirty Dan became a terror to us. Here are some of his traits. His nice demeanor turned out to be the stereotypical nice guy behavior. He was low-key an asshole and thought that acting polite entitled him to female attention. He didn't go to school or work because he received Social Security for some undisclosed medical problem, which meant he never left the house, ever. Which would be one thing, but he never left the living room, despite having his own large bedroom. He spent all of his time in there, including constantly falling asleep on the couch for hours and snoring. We basically could not use the living room unless we wanted to hang out with him, which we didn't, because he drove us crazy. When we had friends over and did use the living room, he would just sit there awkwardly and silently on his computer while we were hanging out or watching a movie with them. Then he would try to watch Let's Play videos on his laptop with the volume up and no headphones while we were all there. Or he would fall asleep while we were all watching a movie and snore. He also only laid down and never sat up, so he always took up half the couch. He would invite himself to things we were doing, like we would be leaving to go somewhere and he would just leave with us and invite himself. He got into some polyamorous relationship with two incredibly annoying girls. They would always be over in the living room too, and they spent most of their time discussing their sex life loudly or looking at BDSM porn on his wee internet browser. He acted super creepy to any female friend we brought over, and as soon as they left would try to friend them on Facebook and hit on them. He would drink all of our alcohol. He was super passive-aggressive, bitchy, and paranoid. He became convinced that we were legitimately going to try and steal his cats after we made a passing joke about it. He was totally filthy. Wore the same like thermal man leggings and a t-shirt every day. The bathroom and fridge were disgusting when we moved in, and if we didn't diligently clean them, he would let them become disgusting again. We grew to basically spend all our time in the apartment in our room and absolutely hate having to interact with him. He had no social graces at all and was passive-aggressive bitchy, and I heard more about his mountain troll sex life than anyone should. When my husband and I first moved in together, we decided to get a few cheap furniture items from Craigslist. I browsed around and saw a pair of bedside tables that a woman was advertising that was gorgeous and in great condition. I messaged her and she said to come and pick them up and I could have them for free. I was shocked she would just give them away. She originally advertised them for $50, but now said she just wanted them gone. She was a bit far away, but we thought it would be fun to take a little road trip anyway, stop and look at the countryside on our way there. After a scenic 4-hour drive we got to the woman's house, we were both immediately overcome with a creepy feeling we could not explain. We joked about her being a serial killer before we got out of the car. Her house was falling apart. Her lawn was so overgrown you could barely see where her front yard was, and all around there were statues of human-animal hybrid creatures, like gargoyles, almost. We walked up her garden path, a clearing amongst the tall grass, and knocked on her door. While we were waiting, I noticed she has wind chimes on her deck made of steak knives. I nudged my husband and point them out to him, and he just shrugged. Maybe she is into craft or something, we thought. I've seen similar wind chins done with spoons, so it wasn't that weird, but definitely not something you see every day. She wasn't answering the door, so we knock on the door again, but there was still no answer. My husband squinted and looked through the tiny glass pane on the door. He then made a strange face and suddenly said, "Let's go." My heart leaped into my throat, and we quickly made our way back through her creepy front yard and back into our car and drove away. I was so confused. I really wanted those tables, but I was also scared of what he had seen. I asked him what was wrong. He said that when he looked into the glass pane, he saw the woman staring back at him with a crazy smile. He said she was honestly the most frightening looking person he had ever seen. I asked him why she was so scary looking, and he said her eyes and mouth were so big they didn't look real. I'm scared to think of what she would have done to us if we hadn't left. Careful on Craigslist, kids. I appreciate you listening to my tales. If you want more, like and subscribe to the channel to be updated. And as always, may you get to heaven before I get to you.